उत्साह नेपाल र रेडियो रियाजको संयुक्त प्रस्तुति उत्साह सकारात्मक सोचका लागि। नमस्ते, रेडियो रियाज 96.8 मेगाहर्ज र उत्साह नेपालको संयुक्त प्रस्तुति सकारात्मक सोचका लागि उत्साह रेडियो कार्यक्रममा सम्पूर्ण श्रोताबिन्दहरूलाई म अनुकार्कीको स्वागत छ। आज हाम्रो स्टुडियोमा उत्साह नेपालकी अध्यक्ष मन्दिरा राउत थापा अतिथिसँगको रमाइलो कुराकानी लिएर आउनु भइसकेको छ। आजको हाम्रो अतिथि हुनुहुन्छ ड्यानियल ओर्थ। उहाँ जोन बी क्रक इन्स्टिट्युट फर पीस एन्ड जस्टिस U.S.A मा प्रोग्राम अफिसरको रूपमा कार्यरत हुनुहुन्छ। हालै उहाँ नेपाल भ्रमणमा हुनुहुन्छ। आउनुहोस् अब सुनौ उत्साह नेपालकी अध्यक्ष मन्दिरा राउत थापा र मिस्टर ड्यानियल ओर्थसँगको यो कुराकानी।
Thank you, Anu. Welcome to the program, Daniel.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Before we start the conversation, I just wanted to tell our audience about J.B.K Institute for Peace and Justice Nepal project, especially since 2001. IPJ here is with Dr. D.K, Director of J.B.K Institute for Peace and Justice. It's been my 10 years working with the Aker. I took a training program with her when that was 2006. So it's right now in 2016. It's 10 years. And I feel very good to talk about IPJ works in Nepal. IPJ do training programs with different stakeholders. IPJ has worked with political security, civil society, youth, former combatants, and women leaders in Nepal since 2001, and has been recognized organization in conflict management internationally. IPJ does not maintain its office here. You, including Dr. D, has been in this visit right now. So have been visiting in different parts of Nepal, right?
Correct, yes.
So what was your first visit outside Kathmandu?
Yeah, so this is actually my first trip to Nepal. Dr. D has been here quite a few times.
Yes.
I'm very fortunate to be along with her here, to have an individual who's got so much experience. So we arrived in Kathmandu a little less than 2 weeks ago. We were here for a few days before we headed out to the far west to Tikapur. And then this past weekend we were down in Birgunj and just got back yesterday on Saturday.
Okay, so how was Tikapur visit?
Well, it was really interesting, of course, to see a different part of the country. We were there to meet with some individuals to hear their perspectives on what had happened after the unrest back in August. And while we were there, everything seemed calm, but it was very clear from our conversations that there was still a lot of underlying tension and certainly a lot of mistrust between individuals within the community.
Okay, regarding the blockades, regarding the constitution?
Not so much either of those events, but actually things related to the event from August 24-25, related to the things that had happened between different groups, of course the murders that had taken place, as well as a lot of the property destruction and other harassment.
Are they experiencing better situations, or are they
better than prior to August? I'm not sure that I would say better necessarily. It's hard for me to know, of course, not having been there before. Things seem relatively calm now, but I think there's still a lot of uncertainty about what had happened and about how those incidents are going to be addressed.
And how was Birgunj?
Very, very different feeling when we were in Birgunj. We were fortunate to go down to the border to see what was happening there with the protesters, and we got there and saw well over 1,000 people on the border protesting, which was quite shocking for us because we had heard from a number of people here in Kathmandu that the protest had really died down and there weren't very many people there. I think we had heard 10, 15, a handful of people, and so to see that many people there was quite a shock. And certainly there's a lot of frustration and a lot of feeling of discrimination amongst the people and the protesters there.
Okay, and did you get to work with other youth groups? Or
when we were there, we were fortunate to do a number of different visits, and then the main focus of our work was a full day workshop that we held on Friday. We were really fortunate to bring together a group of Nepal police, the armed police force, youth, and women leaders from the community, as well as a number of protesters, individuals who were very active in the protest movement. So we had around 30 individuals that were there together for that workshop.
Did you work with some organization there?
Yes, of course. The IPJ has a long-standing partnership with the organization Sanopaila. They are primarily based in Birgunj, have an office here in Kathmandu, and do work all over the country. And so the IPJ has been very fortunate to work with them now for a number of years. And they're the ones who were able to help us identify identify the individuals who would be well suited to take part in that workshop.
So how was the experiences? How did they respond, the participants?
In the workshop?
Yes.
Well, it was very interesting. Of course, you had some people who have been very much in conflict and a lot of mistrust between those parties. So as the morning got started, we had 5 tables set up in the room, and we had a table entirely of Nepal police. We had a table entirely of the APF. We had a table that was just the protesters. And so we conducted an exercise in which we forced them to move and sit with other people. And so all of the tables then were mixed. And so you had these women leaders, you had youth leaders, you had protesters, you had police. And the mood in the room definitely lightened by the end of the day, so that we saw people really engaging with each other in a more productive way. There was laughing and some joking. Certainly, the reality of what was outside was still there in the back of people's minds, but they really did get along pretty well, I think, during the course of that workshop.
So we understand that the workshop was helpful for those people to they need to work together. The end of the workshop was that the community leaders, the protesters, the policemen, they all understood that they all need to work together to solve conflict.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there was a recognition that the community needed to pull itself together to address the issues. But one of the things we did too that we actually ended the workshop with was after identifying the problems that have been taking place as a result of the protests and the constitutional issues, and after identifying a problem, thinking about the causes of that problem, we asked each individual to think about one thing that they could do personally to begin addressing that. So it was both an opportunity to think about how the community works together, how all the different groups work together, as well as an opportunity for individuals to think about what steps they could take to start improving things.
So it was a very fruitful trip.
Yes, very much so. As I mentioned, the opportunity to see firsthand what was taking place on the border and to speak to some of the protesters and their leaders down there about, what are the issues that they're most concerned about was very informational. And then, of course, the workshop was another great opportunity. And in addition to that, then we also had an opportunity to meet with some other individuals, so specifically some of the youth who have been involved in the protest movement in a smaller, more intimate setting, to hear about, what their perspectives were, and then also had the opportunity to meet with some of the political leadership.
Do you see hope there, hope in people that the problems will be solved? Yeah,
I think there was a sort of cautious optimism amongst some of the people that they felt that there was the political leadership in Kathmandu might be close to reaching some sort of agreement, at least about some of the constitutional issues and the amendments that they're discussing. So there was hope that might be resolved, and then there was hope that from that the protest movement would be able to die down.
Okay, so because our show is about hope and motivations,
of course,
we believe in bringing change in people's mind. So we are very glad to hear that, because I haven't been there. So hearing from and then you have become a friend of Nepal. So seeing from that perspective, it does matter, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I should say too, there was hope in that room of the individuals that we brought together for the workshop. Being able to see, we kind of intentionally paired some people together who are very much in conflict in the outside world. And so being able to see a protest leader and a police officer working together as a partnership was very exciting. And, not to say that it was totally smooth, but there they were sitting together, working, talking. And so there's definitely hope. I think anytime that you're able to make people see the humanity in the other side, it's there's so much promise in doing that.
Yeah, because I'm hopeful too that the things will get better, because it's our internal matters, the problems that whatever has arisen, and they are supposed to search the common ground or solve the conflict within our country. Right. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was really our great pleasure to be able to go down there and see.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a wonderful trip thus far. I've been very fortunate to get to see a bit more of the country. And of course, the people that I've met have been incredible. I found the Nepali people across the board to be very generous, very hospitable. And of course, working with Dr. D, it means that she's got an incredible network of people that she's been connected to over all these years. And so being able to come in and begin working with them and meeting them and seeing the great things that they're doing here has been wonderful. I think it's hard because, reading things in the news, the media doesn't always present a very, accurate image of what's taking place. And And in the U.S., it's challenging to really get a lot of news about Nepal. I work every day to actively search out news, reading Nepali newspapers online. But even still, it's challenging, I think, to get a sense of what's going on. And of course, you can read about the damage post-earthquake. You can read about the problems with the Constitution and the tension that exists, but until you really get to a place, get on the ground, and get to see people face-to-face and talk to them and hear about what they're experiencing, there's nothing else like that.
So do you think that there is a huge difference in what is portrayed and what you experience? Portrayed
in the U.S.?
Yeah, especially in the online news.
I don't think a huge difference so much as I just think there isn't enough. I think there's not enough coverage about what's going on. Yeah.
Talking about your, relation with IPJ, because I stated in my first conversation that it's my 10 years, experience IPJ, and I've been to IPJ at 2012 in Women Peacemakers program. They have a lovely program bringing all these old leaders, women leaders, peacemakers into one ground and talking about peace, conflict, hope, So I get motivated each time I talk about IPJ. So when did you start at IPJ?
Yeah, you've definitely had a lot more experience with the IPJ than I have, I think.
Okay.
I just started there in April of last year, so it's been almost 10 months now. I guess, 10 months anniversary coming up. So yeah.
What did you feel like at strategic peace building? So
yeah, well, so I was originally in Boston prior to moving to San Diego, California, and I found this position of this job, and it seemed to me like a dream job. Reading the job description and what I would be doing was exactly what I was hoping to do. It was an opportunity to work with partners on the ground in different countries around the world. It was an opportunity to interact with the students at the university. It was an opportunity to do a little bit of teaching. I was a history teacher for 8 years before returning to graduate school. So the position itself was great. And then once I got there, just surrounded by amazingly passionate and motivated colleagues. And as you mentioned, the Women Peacemakers program, which is one of the IPJ's fantastic programs. I was fortunate to be there this year when the 4 women peacemakers came to us from Namibia, South Africa, Afghanistan, and Israel. And to be able to be around the 4 of them, the 4 incredible leaders in their own countries, was a truly inspirational experience as well. And of course, the Women Peacemakers program documents their stories, which are available on the IPJ's website. So listeners can go and get inspired by the same stories that I was fortunate enough to hear firsthand.
When I was talking to you, you said that you were only the main male person who's working in your office, and you are surrounded by women.
The only male, yeah. Me and 8 women.
Yes. So how is that experience working with women?
I sometimes think that I don't even notice it. I just, being with people who are as intelligent and passionate as they are, I sometimes forget about the gender dimension of things, but it's always has to be there in the back of your mind then as you're doing some of your work.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. With relations with Nepal project, so do you feel that you have seen the organization that IPJ work in past years? So
yeah. So when I started, I knew that the Nepal project would be one of the things that I would be getting to work on, and of course, then it was only less than 3 weeks after I started that the earthquake hit, and so our involvement in Nepal was potentially going to change. We weren't sure what was going to happen or what the needs would be as the country came out of that earthquake experience. But it was great for me to be able to hear about all these incredible people and organizations that we've worked with in Nepal. But it's challenging, of course, too, until you really get to meet someone face to face and put a face to a name. It was hard for me, but now that I've been here for nearly 2 weeks and had a chance to really connect with a lot of the people that we've been involved with, it's amazing to see, the extent to which the IPJ has been involved in Nepal, and all the amazing individuals who have been working to improve the country.
Does physical visit matter?
Physically being in the country? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so challenging to really get a sense of what's going on until you get there on the ground. As I said, until you really get to have a conversation face to face with someone, there's really nothing quite like that in order to gain an understanding. And then, of course, to be able to see an environment in which I've been reading about and hearing about, it just makes a tremendous difference to really understanding.
So you said that you were in teachers, and right now like IPJ works is like, connecting people and bringing people together and, trying to solve their internal conflicts or, managing people together. So in recent works that you work with certain organization, what did you see in the people who were organizers and plus the people who participated in the program?
Yeah, I mean, I think that part of our real strength is being able to bring people together and being able to help people have better, more productive conversations. And it's, of course, not our job to come up with the solutions, but rather just create an environment and help people to reach the solutions that they need. So, it's really important that, as you mentioned in the first segment, rebuilding, resolving the constitutional issue is a Nepali problem, is something that the country and its people need to address. And our role is really just to help create that environment,
facilitate them to understand and
precisely
and bring people together.
Precisely,
right? Yeah.
And one of the things that I've seen, in our interactions here in creating those settings, is just such a commitment to the country and a commitment to helping to put the country on the right track. Rebuilding post earthquake and reintegrating the society after the issues that have come up. So, just very inspirational to see the commitment, especially on the part of young people here in Nepal, who are really working to work with their neighbors, work in their communities to improve the country.
When you were working with the youth and all, what is different that you have experience in your country? So and then you know the story of other countries who are struggling to rebuild their own. Like you especially work with the countries who are involved in conflict. So what is difference that you see?
I mean, there's definitely differences, but I think it's important too to think about the similarities. Some of my other work at the IPJ takes me to Kenya to work with youth and police in Nairobi. And it's very similar, of course, to some of the issues that have happened here in Nepal in terms of youth and police. And then any of your listeners who follow the news from the U.S. know that there's been quite a bit of conflict between youth and police in the U.S. as well. And so, it's an ongoing challenge for societies to protect the rights of their citizens. And it's an ongoing challenge of the citizens of those countries to really work for and work towards the achievement of those rights.
So do you see that in those similarities, what did you see that young minds are, positive, they're hopeful?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the best things about working with youth. It's one of the things that I really enjoyed about being a teacher.
Even including Kenya and Nairobi?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, across the board, it's young people who are trying innovative things. It's young people who are founding new organizations. It's young people who don't believe in the sorts of stereotypes that their parents and their grandparents believed in. It's young people who are willing to accept the person who's a different ethnic group, a different caste, a different race, a different religion, have conversations with them. So yeah, it's deeply inspiring, and the way that youth are able to energetically tackle problems, I think, is one of the things that inspires me in my own work.
You said that you see collaborative efforts here, especially with young people, that they are coming together to solve countries' issues. What did you think that their strengths are?
The strength of the youth?
Yeah.
Well, I think certainly technology is important, and of course many of the youth have access to social media, smartphones, and things like that. And I think that being able to communicate better is really important. I think that, as we mentioned earlier, there's sometimes issues with the extent to which media is able to tell the stories, and I think that more that the youth are able to communicate directly with each other, the more opportunities there are to share those stories, to share those experiences.
How is the professional life? Professional
life of the youth?
Yeah, are they serious at their work?
Yes, absolutely. In terms of the last question, absolutely. I think the young people that I've been fortunate enough to work with in Nepal take very seriously their work. The number of hours commitment they have, the work ethic is incredible. I think, of course, the country has a pretty wide disparity in terms of what opportunities are available to people. And when we were out in the far west in Tikapur, I think we saw, many fewer opportunities for the youth that are there. And similarly, I think in Birgunj, not the same level of opportunities. So for those youth who we were able to work with, who are, working with these NGOs, with our local partners, just an incredible level of commitment on their part.
So, being from outside, how people perceive you?
I think that's one of the greatest challenges to this work. I'm very aware of the fact that I'm not from Nepal, I'm not from Kenya, I'm not from Israel. Coming into these spaces, I need to be very careful about, being humble and asking questions and learning from the individuals who are there. versus coming in with some sort of agenda, some sort of preconceived idea of, what the situation is, what people need, what people are thinking and feeling. And I think that means that the most important part of my work is to be able to ask questions and listen to people, to be able to put together a full picture of what's going on, and potentially then what role I can play in helping things move forward, helping people have better conversations, helping people to solve their own problems rather than trying to give out solutions to them.
You also have a master's in diplomacy and also law. What differences you see that, you do your master's in that and you are doing this peace and conflict?
Yeah,
it's different.
I was very fortunate to go to the Fletcher School for my graduate work, and the degree that I got is a Master of Arts in Law and Diplomacy. And we always like to joke that we were neither lawyers nor diplomats officially, so our degree was somewhat misleading. But my focus was on international negotiation and conflict resolution, and I think it was really valuable for me, the experience there, because I was able to take a pretty wide range of classes and work with professors who are not just academics, but are in fact practitioners themselves. And so one of my professors, who was also my mentor, she and I were able to work on a project together, bringing together Israeli Jews and Israeli Arabs to talk about creating a shared society in their country. And so to be able to draw on the practical experiences of professors was much more meaningful than just reading about theories in a book.
Because I wanted to ask this question because I was kind of surprised, and I was trying to see the link because it does matter, right? The studies.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you mean in terms of what things people study before and coming into the field? Yeah, I think that there's so much specialization today in what people study that, there's specific development economics, there's specific conflict resolution, there's specific international relations, and with just so much specialization, I think there is a difference. I think it's important, though, that people have a wide range of experiences in terms of what they've studied, what they've looked at, the jobs that they've had when they're trying to come into conflict resolution, into peace building.
So what motivates in your job?
What motivates me in my job, I think, is the inspiration that I take from the people that I get to work with. My colleagues at the Institute for Peace and Justice are incredibly inspirational in their commitment to their work. And then the local partners that we work with, whether it's in Kenya or in Nepal, just their passion, their commitment to working to improve their societies is very inspirational. And the fact that I get to work as a peace builder is pretty amazing. Program officer for strategic peace building, means that I'm working on peace every day. I was at a conference with some other people, the Alliance for Peace Building, and someone stated, we're really fortunate to be able to look around and say that our job is working on peace. And it's true. It's something that, a lot of young students hear about, talk about in school, work towards peace. And then to actually be able to do that as a job is really amazing.
Yeah, I can understand that feelings about being a peacemaker because my first-hand experience with IPJ was in 2006. I participated in one of the workshops from representing my previous company where I worked, Today's Youth Asia. And first time it was a different experience, I was a humanities student and I was working on media. And then I went to a workshop where people were talking about coming together, solving problems, talking about peace. So that was a very different experience for me. And after that, it's my 10th year that, each year, whenever IPJ is here, I've been fortunate enough to work as a translator or, sometime go on the ground and do my part of job as a partner organization or as a program coordinator. So, and that has helped me a lot. I visited Tarai regions with IPJ. My first experience was that I was lucky and fortunate enough to get that opportunity. So I can understand, So right now, my from Utsah, Nepal as well, whenever I design a program and all, I always focus on conflict resolutions, peace building. And I try to see that, I at least don't create problems among different ethnicity, caste, and even about inclusion, bringing people together,
Absolutely. It's very important to be conscious of those things and really, I think actively work to make sure that you are addressing those concerns. Yeah,
so I'm really thankful to the Nepal project and Dr. D for at least coming every year, and because unless we don't express how it feels, our listeners might be wondering, it's just an foreigner organization,
right?
And a lot of people might not know that you don't hold office, and you are only coming here if we Nepalese invite.
Right.
Our different organization invites.
Yeah, it's one of the important principles that the IPJ works on is that, we don't maintain any sort of office in the country, but we are only here when individuals and organizations feel like there's some role that we can play. And, I think that's one of the things that actually attracted me to working at the IPJ in the first place, was that it's an organization predicated on listening and then responding to those needs rather than coming in to try to tell people what to do. So, yeah.
And it makes us skillful. Like me as a person, I wouldn't concentrate on translations, going on the ground, So when I got an opportunity to do that, then I really understood my own country.
Wow.
So get an opportunity to work with so much experience, like personalities like IPJ brings with different other speakers from U.S. too, and as a trainer.
Yeah.
And then I got an opportunity to work with few of them. So
there's certainly a hope that by being here, we develop these relationships and are working alongside and really truly in partnership with people, and that both of us are learning. I think Dr. D and I both feel like we learn every time we're putting a program together, and we hope certainly that the feeling is mutual. Yeah,
like I learn too, so I can understand that. So at the end of the program, we are almost at the end of the program. If you have a message for the Nepalese youth who are listening to this program, so what would be that?
I think my message would be continue to work hard, continue to think about how you build your country, be open to communication and to new ideas, and really reach out and talk to people to learn about their experiences, to hear where they're coming from, and then be able to have a conversation moving forward from there. But continue working hard, and I think that Nepal and its people have it's such an incredible place, and I know that it seems like there's a lot of work to do, and there always is. There's a lot of work to do in the U.S. too, and we're continuing to work on building a better society where we are, and the best that we can do is just keep on going.
So thank you, Daniel, for coming here in our studio and talking to us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you.
धन्यवाद। आजको अतिथि मन्दिरा राउत अनि ड्यानियल अर्थ। कार्यक्रममा सुझाव तथा प्रतिक्रिया भए हाम्रो ठेगाना रेडियो कार्यक्रम उत्साह, रेडियो रियाज 96.8 मेगाहर्ज, फोन नम्बर 4670830, इमेल utsahnepal@gmail.com। अर्को साता फेरि रोचक विषय तथा व्यक्तित्व लिएर आउने नै छौं। शुभरात्रि।